Soul is at home in the deep, shaded valleys. Heavy, torpid flowers, saturated with black, grow there. The rivers flow like warm syrup. They empty into huge oceans of soul. A quote from a letter by the Dalai Lama that is in this book, A Blue Fire by James Hillman. I will read you some heavily cropped excerpts from this as you experience this space. I will tell you what this space is at the end of this video. But for now, please enjoy this slow reading. James Hillman. I have called this talk Peaks and Vales, and I've been aiming to draw apart those images in order to contrast them as vividly as I can. The contemporary meaning of peak was developed by resonating with an archetypal image, for peaks have belonged to the spirit ever since Mount Sinai and Mount Olympus. And you will easily name a dozen other mountains of the spirit. God nearness and absolutism and intensity is a traditional way of describing spiritual experiences. Vales, however, do indeed need more exposition, just as everything to do with soul needs to be carefully imagined as accurately as we can. Vale comes from the Romantics. Keats used the term in a letter, and I have taken this passage from Keats as a psychological motto. Call the world, if you please, the veil of soul-making. Then you will find out the use of the world. Veil, in the usual religious language of our culture, is a depressed emotional place, a vale of tears. Jesus walked in this lonesome valley. The valley of the shadow of death. The very first definition of valley in the Oxford English Dictionary is a long depression or hollow. The meaning of vale and valley include entire subcategories referring to such sad things as the decline of years and old age, the world regarded as a place of troubles, sorrow and weeping, and the world regarded as the scene of the mortal, the earthly and the lowly. There is also a feminine association with vales, unlike peaks, where the wooded river valley teeming with animal life is an equivalent for the vagina. And we find a feminine connotation of the valley in mythology. For valleys are the places of the nymphs. One of the etymological explanations of the word nymph takes these figures to be personifications of the wisps and clouds, of mists clinging to valleys, mountainsides, and water sources. Nymphs veil our vision, keep us short-sighted, myopic, caught. No long-range distancing, no projections or prophecies, as from the peak. This peak-veil pairing is also used by the 14th Dalai Lama of Tibet. In a letter, he writes, The relation of height to spirituality is not merely metaphorical. It is physical reality. The most spiritual people on this planet live in the highest places. So do the most spiritual flowers. I call the high and light aspects of my being spirit, and the dark and heavy aspects soul. Soul is at home in the deep shaded valleys. Heavy, torpid flowers saturated with black grow there. The rivers flow like warm syrup. They empty into huge oceans of soul. Huge oceans of soul. Huge oceans of soul.
Hello.
Hello. Spirit is a land of high white peaks and glittering jewel-like lakes and flowers. Life is sparse and sounds travel great distances. There is soul music, soul food, soul dancing, and soul love. When the soul triumphed, the herdsmen came to the lamaseries, for soul is communal and loves being in unison. But the creative soul craves spirit. Out of the jungles of the lamasery, the most beautiful monks one day bid farewell to their comrades and go to make their journey, their solitary journey toward the peaks, there to mate with the cosmos. No spirit broods over lofty destinations, for desolation is of the depths, as is of brooding. At these heights, spirit leaves soul far behind. People need to climb the mountains, and not simply because it is there. But because the soul divinity needs to be mated with spirit. That's the end of the Dalai Lama letter section. Back to James Hillman. I am trying to let the images of language draw our distinction. That is the soul's way of proceeding, for it is the way of dreams, reflections, fantasies, reveries, and paintings. To give definitions of spirit and soul, the one abstract, unified, concentrated, the other concrete, multiple, immanent, puts the distinction and the problem into the language of the spirit. We would already have left the valley. We would be making differences, like a surveyor, laying out what belongs to whom, according to logic and law, rather than according to imagination.